The phone rang before the wrapping paper hit the floor. That was the first thing I should have paid attention to. It wasn't loud. It wasn't urgent. Just a soft vibration against the coffee table, barely noticeable beneath the hum of Christmas music and polite laughter. But something about it felt out of place, like a whisper during a prayer. I ignored it. Everyone does, at first. Christmas morning had arrived exactly as scheduled, dressed up in tradition and denial. My parents' house smelled like pine needles and cinnamon, the kind of smell that tries too hard to convince you everything is fine. The tree stood crooked in the corner, leaning slightly to the left, like it always had, decorated with ornaments older than my daughter, and expectations even older than me. I stood near the doorway with a mug of coffee I wasn't drinking, watching my daughter sit on the rug. Her name is Nora. She was 9 years old that Christmas. Old enough to understand tone. Old enough to read rooms. Old enough to know when hope needed permission. She sat with her legs tucked neatly beneath her, hands folded in her lap, eyes forward. She didn't bounce. She didn't reach. She waited. Waiting had become her specialty. Across the room, my brother's son, Caleb, was already on his third gift. Paper tore. Boxes thudded. Batteries were requested. My father laughed the deep, approving laugh he reserved for moments he wanted to remember. My mother clasped her hands together and said things like, "Oh, wow," and "He's going to love that," as if love were a prize that arrived in packaging. Nora clapped. Just once. Soft. She smiled the way kids smile when they're trying not to ask for too much, when they're hoping gratitude might be mistaken for worth. I noticed. I always noticed. Because I used to sit the same way. Because I learned early that taking up space came with consequences. "This one's next," my mother said, smoothing the front of her sweater. Her voice shifted into that careful brightness she used when she wanted credit in advance. She slid a box across the carpet. Rectangular. Slim. Too clean. I felt something tighten in my chest before Nora even touched it. "For me?" Nora asked quietly. My father nodded once. My brother leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, watching with an expression I couldn't quite name yet. Caleb didn't look up at all. He was busy setting something electronic on the floor and asking where the charger was. Nora peeled the paper back slowly. Too slowly. Like the moment might disappear if she rushed it. The box underneath was white, minimal, familiar. Her breath caught. She didn't say anything. She just stared. It was a phone. Not the newest one. Not the kind kids bragged about in the lunchroom. But still a phone. A real one. The kind of gift that meant something. Especially in a house where meaning was usually rationed. She hugged it to her chest. Not tightly. Carefully. Like it could be taken back. "Oh," she whispered. "Thank you." She said it immediately. Automatically. Like a reflex she'd practiced. I felt it then. That stupid, dangerous thing. Hope. It slipped in quietly, the way it always does when you're tired enough to let it. Maybe they saw her this year. Maybe someone noticed how easy she was. How good. How little trouble she caused. Hope is reckless like that. It shows up uninvited and rearranges the room before you can stop it. My mother watched Nora closely, waiting. My father stayed quiet. My brother's mouth twitched, just slightly, like he was watching something unfold that he already understood. "We'll set it up later," my mother said. "Properly, with rules." Nora nodded eagerly. Too eagerly. Later came upstairs, where the noise softened and the house felt smaller, where the walls knew our names, where Nora could be excited without feeling observed. She sat on the bed and opened the box with reverence, lifted the lid slowly. The phone inside was silver, smooth, beautiful. She smiled so wide it almost hurt to look at. "I can't believe they got me this," she said. I smiled too, or something close enough. Then she turned it over. "Mom?" she asked. "Why does it look like that?" "Scratches. Not deep, not dramatic, just enough to catch the light if you tilted it." "It's probably refurbished," I said too quickly. "That's normal," she nodded. She wanted to believe. Kids always do. She pressed the power button. The screen lit up. A logo flashed. And then, it went straight to a home screen. No setup. No welcome. Just, on. Nora frowned. Is it already ready? Before I could answer, a notification slid down from the top of the screen. Just a banner. Just a few words. She leaned closer. What does it say? I leaned in and felt my body go cold. Those words didn't belong on a child's phone. They didn't belong anywhere near my daughter's hands. I didn't yell. I didn't grab it away. I forced my face into something calm. That's strange, I said lightly. Let me see. She handed it to me without hesitation. Because she trusted me. Because she was supposed to. I tapped the screen once. Then, again. This wasn't a glitch. This phone had a life before Nora. A long one. I set it down gently, like it might explode. Sweetheart, I said, keeping my voice steady. Why don't you go brush your teeth? We'll finish this in a minute. She hesitated. Promise? Promise. She padded into the bathroom, humming quietly. The door closed. And the house felt different. That was when I picked the phone back up. And that was when I understood something had already gone terribly wrong. I stood there for a moment longer than necessary, the phone heavy in my hand, listening to the faint sound of running water from the bathroom. Nora was brushing her teeth like nothing in the world had changed, like Christmas was still exactly what it was supposed to be. I unlocked the screen. It didn't ask for a password. That alone told me more than I wanted to know. The first thing I saw wasn't a single shocking message. It was volume. Thread after thread. Notifications stacked on notifications. The kind of excess that doesn't come from a mistake but from habit. I opened the messaging app. The same number appeared again and again, stretching back weeks, months. Messages sent at all hours. Late night, early morning. Long gaps followed by sudden floods. Like whoever held this phone had learned the rhythm of wearing someone down. This wasn't an argument. This was a routine. I checked the call log. Missed calls. Back-to-back attempts. Voicemails left without responses. Persistence that felt intentional, practiced. I scrolled through contacts. Random names. Numbers saved under jokes and initials. Nothing real. Nothing traceable at first glance. Then I saw a name that tightened my throat. Ava. I knew that name. She went to Nora's school. Or she had. I remembered hearing it at pickup, whispered between parents who leaned in close and lowered their voices. A girl who'd stopped showing up halfway through the year. Transferred, people said. Moved. Gone. Someone once mentioned her parents had made a big deal about it. Someone else said the school was involved. The details were never clear, but the discomfort was. And now her name was sitting inside a phone my parents had handed to my daughter like a Christmas miracle. I didn't need to read everything to understand the shape of it. I closed the app and set the phone down, staring at it like it might start buzzing again. My first instinct was denial. Maybe it had been Caleb's old phone. That part almost made sense. He got upgrades the way other kids got haircuts. New devices weren't special to him. If he'd kept an old one around, if he'd used it for something stupid and careless, that wouldn't shock me. And if my parents had regifted it without thinking, without checking, cheap, lazy, thoughtless, I could almost live with thoughtless. What I couldn't reconcile was the rest of it. The way my mother insisted on waiting to set it up. The way my brother watched Nora open the box. The way no one seemed surprised. Downstairs, laughter rose suddenly, followed by the scrape of a chair. Someone said something sharp. Another voice answered, low and controlled. They sounded normal. And in my family, normal was never comforting. I stepped into the hallway, barefoot on cold wood, the phone still in my hand. I didn't plan to listen. I just didn't turn back. I paused at the top of the stairs. That's when I heard my brother's voice. She's going to figure it out. My mother replied immediately, calm as if she were commenting on the weather. She already thinks it's refurbished, my father added, quieter, confident. She won't do anything. She never does. Something inside me cracked, not loudly. Just enough to let something cold seep in. I stayed still. I knew that tone. Calm meant decided. Calm meant this conversation had already happened without me. My brother exhaled hard. This is getting serious. The school's involved now. Ava's parents aren't backing off, my mother snapped, irritation cutting through her calm. Because it was serious, there was a pause. Then my brother said, softer. I didn't think it would go this far. My father's chair creaked. It went this far because Caleb wouldn't stop. The words landed like a blow. He's a kid, my brother shot back. And Nora isn't. For half a second, just one, I felt a sick flicker of relief, until my mother said, Nora's easier, like it was a feature, like it was useful. My hand shook as I pulled my phone from my pocket and hit record. Not because I had a plan. Because instinct takes over when shock shuts your brain down. What if the police trace it? My brother asked. What if they won't, my father interrupted. Not if the phone isn't with Caleb. My mother sighed, the sound of someone tired of explaining something obvious. We gave it to her. It's in her room. It's in her hands. There was a hesitation. But it's her phone now, my mother's voice softened. Exactly. That was when it clicked. This wasn't panic. This wasn't a cover-up spiraling out of control. This was a plan. She's going to freak out, my brother muttered. Dad scoffed. She always does. And Nora? My brother asked. My mother waved it off. She's a good girl. She'll be fine. My brother laughed quietly. You know how she is. Always thinks her kid's special. My father chuckled. Low and mean. Maybe this will teach her not to make such a big deal out of everything. I didn't wait to hear more. I backed away slowly, my phone still recording until I reached the bedroom and closed the door behind me. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped it. I listened back just long enough to know I hadn't imagined any of it. I hadn't. Nora stirred, rolling onto her side, clutching the empty phone box like it was something she'd earned. A few minutes later, she sat up, blinking sleep from her eyes. Can I have it now? She asked, smiling. Something in my chest broke cleanly in half. I forced my face into calm. Yeah, I said. But listen to me first, okay? Her smile faltered. What's wrong? We're going to go out for a bit, I said lightly. A little surprise. Her face brightened instantly. Kids love surprises. Adults fear them. Go grab your shoes and jacket, I said. She ran to the closet. I packed fast, quiet, controlled. Clothes, toothbrush, chargers, both phones, wallet. I wasn't thinking about tomorrow. I was thinking about distance. I texted my friend Jenna with one thumb. Can we come over? Right now, she replied almost immediately. Of course. What happened? I'll explain when I get there. Nora bounced back into the room. Where are we going? I slung the bag over my shoulder and opened the door. Downstairs, Christmas music was still playing. My mother laughed at something. The house sounded warm, normal. Nora skipped ahead of me down the stairs. Where are you going? My mother asked, her smile tightening. Just out for a bit, I said. My voice didn't shake. A sleepover? She asked. Yeah, I said. Nora's excited. Nora nodded enthusiastically. Sleepover. My father's eyes narrowed. My brother watched me too closely. Caleb appeared in the doorway, smirking when he saw the bag. I didn't look away. I didn't say a word, because his Christmas present was still upstairs, and it wasn't a phone. It was consequences. Cold air hit my face as we stepped outside. Nora tugged my hand. Mom? She asked quietly. Did I do something wrong? My heart shattered. No, I said instantly. No, sweetheart. Never. She searched my face. I squeezed her hand. I promise. And I drove away, knowing I wasn't coming back the same person. Jenna didn't ask questions when she opened the door. She took one look at my face, stepped aside, and said, Come in. That was all. No shock, No curiosity, just space. Nora ran past us immediately, shoes still half on, already distracted by the sound of a dog skittering across the hardwood floor and the promise of snacks. Children have a miraculous ability to pivot. One moment they're carrying the weight of the world, the next they're chasing something harmless and bright. I envied that. In the kitchen, I set my bag down and felt my hands start to shake now that Nora wasn't watching. "They knew," I said. The words came out flat, like I'd scraped them off something sharp. "They gave it to her on purpose." Jenna's mouth tightened. She didn't interrupt. "They didn't check the phone. They didn't forget to reset it. They used it." I swallowed. "As a place to put things they didn't want found." "All of them?" she asked quietly. "All of them." She nodded once. "Stay here," she said. "As long as you need." I left Nora with Jenna, told her I'd be back soon, kissed her forehead, and walked out before my resolve could soften. If I waited, if I explained too much, I might talk myself out of doing what I already knew had to be done. The drive to the station was quiet in that unsettling holiday way. Streets emptied of traffic, houses glowing with the performance of peace. It felt wrong that the world could look so normal when something this ugly was sitting in my passenger seat. Inside, the building was fluorescent and calm, and painfully ordinary. I told the officer everything. Christmas morning, the phone, the messages, what I'd overheard, the recording. I slid both phones across the counter. "This one was given to my daughter," I said. "And I think it's connected to an ongoing case involving a student named Ava." The officer didn't gasp. He didn't raise his voice. He just nodded slowly, like a puzzle piece had finally clicked into place. "That name's familiar," he said. They took the phones, logged them, bagged them, asked me to walk them through the timeline again. Slower this time, where the phone had been. When Nora touched it, what she'd seen. What she hadn't, I answered calmly. Not because I felt calm, but because panic wouldn't protect my child. They gave me a case number. That was it. No speeches, no promises, just procedure. It was enough. When I got back to Jenna's, Nora was curled up on the couch in borrowed pajamas, a blanket that wasn't hers pulled up to her chin, eyes half focused on a movie she'd already forgotten starting. "Mom," she said when she saw me, "did you get the phone fixed?" My chest tightened. "Not yet," I said gently. "It needs to be checked first." She nodded, satisfied, and turned back to the screen. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I ignored it. It buzzed again. Then again. I already knew who it was. When I finally looked, there were missed calls stacked on top of each other. My mother, my father, my brother. I answered and put it on speaker. "What were you thinking?" My brother snapped. "You went to the police?" My mother demanded, her voice sharp now, stripped of its calm. "He's a child," my brother said. "Do you have any idea what you've done? You could ruin his life." I waited. I let the silence stretch. My mother filled it quickly. "This didn't need to go that far. By giving it to my daughter?" I asked quietly. There was a pause. "She would have been fine," my mother said. "Nothing was going to happen to her. And if something had?" I asked. My father exhaled hard. "You're overreacting." No, they didn't deny it. Not once. They didn't say they didn't know. They didn't say it was a mistake. My brother's voice sharpened. Caleb could get expelled over this. And there it was. They knew it was tied to Ava. They knew the school was involved. They knew the police had already been circling. They had handed my child a live wire and hoped she'd absorb the shock quietly. "I'm done," I said. My father started to speak. I said, "I'm done," I repeated. "Do not contact me again." I hung up. Nora laughed at something on the screen, unaware of the moment my family fractured beyond repair. That night, after Nora fell asleep, I sat on the edge of the couch and let the quiet settle into my bones. Not relief, not yet, just the absence of noise. The fallout didn't come all at once. It never does. The first call came from the school 2 days later. They were conducting a review. That was the phrase they used. Careful, Legal. Bloodless. Then another call. And another. I learned that Ava's parents had been collecting screenshots for months. That the phone I'd turned in wasn't the only one. That Caleb hadn't acted alone, but he'd been the most persistent. Patterns emerged. Timelines aligned. The story grew teeth. Nora didn't ask many questions. Kids know when adults are carrying something heavy. She sensed the shift and stepped back instinctively, the way she always did. That broke me more than anything else. I didn't tell her details. I didn't let her carry what wasn't hers. She didn't need to know why the phone was gone, or why we weren't going back to my parents' house. She just needed to know she was safe, and she was. Weeks passed. The house I grew up in went silent. Messages filtered into voicemail. Emails appeared, then stopped. When I didn't respond, they tried other routes. Mutual relatives, casual run-ins. One ill-advised attempt to contact Nora through her school. I shut that down immediately. Paperwork followed. Forms, signatures, dates. No contact wasn't dramatic. It was methodical. Boring, even. And effective. I moved us into a small rental on the other side of town. It wasn't big. It wasn't permanent. But it was quiet. The first night there, Nora lay on the floor of her new room, staring at the ceiling like it might tell her something. "It's quiet," she said. "Yes," I told her. "It is." And for the first time in a long time, quiet didn't feel like waiting for something bad to happen. It felt like space. The truth has a way of spreading even when you don't feed it. I didn't hear about what happened next directly. I didn't ask for updates. I didn't follow threads or lean into rumors. I learned things the way you do when you step out of a family system that's been sealed tight for decades, through fragments, through other people's discomfort, through silences that arrive too late to matter. Caleb was suspended first. That part didn't make the news. It was framed as administrative leave, a pause while the school finished its investigation, a way to buy time and keep everyone calm. It didn't work. Screenshots surfaced, more than anyone expected. Messages that showed pattern, escalation, intent, not just cruelty, but repetition, design, a slow tightening meant to corner someone who couldn't fight back. Ava's parents didn't back down. They hadn't done all that work to stop halfway. The suspension became an expulsion. Not a transfer. Not a quiet agreement to find a better fit. An expulsion. Clean. Final. Written in language that left very little room for interpretation. Caleb's future, the one everyone had been so desperate to protect, cracked open under the weight of its own entitlement. My parents didn't go to prison. People ask that sometimes, like they're disappointed when real life doesn't deliver cinematic justice. What they got instead was quieter and more permanent. They were charged with obstruction. Not a dramatic arrest. No handcuffs. Just paperwork and court dates, and a record that would follow them into rooms where their version of events no longer carried weight. Probation. Mandatory classes. Community service they would later describe as humiliating and unfair. What it really was. Exposure. Once things were written down, once the recording existed outside the family bubble, the narrative stopped being theirs. My brother went quiet. At first, it was fury voicemails left late at night, messages sent and deleted, secondhand attempts to paint me as unstable. When none of that worked, the noise faded. Silence, in his case, wasn't remorse. It was damage control. The family circle tightened without me. Holidays happened. Birthdays passed. Photos were taken and shared in spaces I no longer occupied. I could tell when someone asked about me because the explanations grew shorter over time. "She's busy." She moved. "It's complicated." Complicated is what people say when the truth feels impolite. Nora adjusted faster than I did. Kids are adaptable like that. When something unsafe is removed, they don't always grieve it. They just breathe easier. She didn't ask about the phone anymore. Occasionally, she'd mention it in passing, the way you mention a toy you once wanted but no longer need. Sometimes she forgot it had ever existed. I noticed other changes. She laughed louder. She interrupted stories without apologizing. She stopped clapping politely for other people's praise. One night, as we were unpacking the last box in the new place, she looked up at me and said, "Mom? Yes? Do I have to be good all the time?" The question caught me off guard. "What do you mean?" I asked. She shrugged. "Like, to be worth stuff." I sat down on the floor with her, surrounded by half-hung clothes and cardboard. "No," I said. "You never did." She nodded, like she was filing the answer somewhere important. The rental didn't feel temporary the way my parents' house always had. There was no sense of waiting for permission, no invisible rules. We painted the walls without asking. We ate dinner on the couch. We left dishes in the sink overnight without anyone sighing at us. It wasn't perfect. It was peaceful. The first time I slept through the night without my phone lighting up, I woke up disoriented. My body had grown used to bracing for impact. Peace felt unfamiliar. I started to understand how much energy I'd spent managing other people's reactions, predicting moods, editing myself in advance. That work was gone now, and in its absence, something quieter took shape. Clarity. I didn't miss them the way I thought I would. I missed the idea of what family was supposed to be. The version where love wasn't conditional and safety wasn't negotiable. But that family had never existed. This one did. The message from Ava's parents came months later. It was short. Just a thank you. Not effusive. Not emotional. Relief, compressed into a few lines. I cried when I read it. Not because I wanted recognition, because it meant the worst part was over for someone else, too. I deleted the message afterward. Not out of indifference, but because I didn't need proof anymore that I'd done the right thing. Nora was thriving, not the careful version of thriving that stays quiet and agreeable. The messy one, the loud one, the kind that takes up space without asking. She joined a soccer team, quit after 2 weeks, tried art classes, decided she hated them, changed her mind, changed it again. She learned that she could, and I learned that protecting her didn't require explanation, only action. 6 months after that Christmas, my life became quiet. Not the awkward kind of quiet. Not the kind that feels like you're holding your breath, waiting for something to explode. This was a different quiet. The kind that settles in slowly and stays. The kind that lets you sleep through the night without your phone lighting up and your stomach dropping before you even read the screen. The kind that feels earned. I didn't wake up one morning feeling brave or healed or triumphant. There was no dramatic turning point after the police station. No moment where everything suddenly made sense. What happened instead was smaller and more honest. I stopped negotiating with people who had already decided my child was expendable. I stopped explaining myself. I stopped hoping that accountability would soften them into something safer. After that last phone call, I blocked the numbers. One by one, emails went straight to trash. Social media disappeared behind privacy settings. When indirect attempts started messages sent through relatives, accidental run-ins, one bold attempt to pass a note through Nora's school, I shut that down too, not with anger, with paperwork, forms, signatures, dates. No contact orders aren't cinematic. They don't come with speeches or applause. They come with calm language and very clear boundaries. Anyone who had tried to use my child as collateral was no longer welcome anywhere near her. That line felt final in the best possible way. We moved shortly after. Nothing dramatic. A small place across town. Fewer rooms. More light. The kind of space that didn't carry other people's expectations in the walls. The first night there, Nora lay on her bed, arms spread wide, staring up at the ceiling like it was something new. "It feels peaceful," she said. That was how I knew. Peace wasn't silence forced by fear. It was safety. She didn't get another phone. Not right away. Not because she was being punished, but because she didn't need one. The phone had never been the point. It was just a symbol of how easily adults justify harm when it's convenient. Of how quickly children are expected to carry things they shouldn't have to. Sometimes she asked about it. Sometimes she forgot it ever existed. and she was okay either way. What changed instead was her posture. She stopped shrinking. She stopped scanning faces before laughing. She stopped apologizing for having needs. And every time she spoke up, every time she took up space without checking first, I felt a quiet kind of pride settle into my chest. Not the performative kind, the grounded kind, the kind that doesn't need witnesses. As for me, I didn't miss them. Not really. I missed the idea of the family I wanted. The version where love didn't have to be earned and safety wasn't conditional on being easy. But that family had never existed. I'd just been raised to pretend it had. This one did. The fallout on their side eventually finished burning through itself. It always does. Consequences have a way of arriving even when people work very hard to avoid them. I didn't need the details anymore. Knowing they existed was enough. The last thing I heard was that Ava was doing better. New school, new start. Her parents sent a brief message months later. Just gratitude. Just relief. I cried when I read it. Then, I deleted it. Not because it didn't matter, but because I didn't need proof anymore that I'd done the right thing. Here's the part people always want to argue about. They ask if I went too far, if I could have handled it privately, if calling the police was necessary, if family should be protected at all costs, if I regret it. I don't, because the cost they were asking me to pay wasn't abstract. It was my child. It was her safety, her innocence, her sense of worth. And anyone who thinks that's negotiable has already told you exactly who they are. So that's where this story ends. Not with revenge, not with a victory lap, just with quiet. The kind that lets a child sleep without bracing. The kind that lets a parent breathe without scanning for danger. The kind that doesn't ask you to be smaller to belong. Now I'm going to ask you something and I want you to answer honestly. If you think I did the right thing, comment 1. If you think I went too far, comment 0. And if this story stayed with you, if it made you uncomfortable in the way truth sometimes does, you already know why stories like this matter. Because silence protects the wrong people. And clarity, once you have it, changes everything.